punters, and welcome to our Tab AFL special. What a lineup we've got between a 710 AFL games, 2 Brownlow medals, 4 flags, and untold mischief on the postseason. I welcome Jimmy Bartel and Shane Crawford. What a time to be alive, gents.
Nick Quinn, the Brownlow medal, very special for Jimmy and myself, but it's great from a punting point of view too. There's great value. I think this year's going to be closer than ever, and you'd be crazy not to have a go.
Yeah, well, thanks for leaving me out there, bringing up that I'm the only one on the panel that hasn't won one. What did winning the Brownlow do to your life, Jimmy?
Well, firstly, Quinny, you probably win the Brownlow for the best hair in the game. So there you go. You'll be a $1.05 favourite to take out your 10th title in a row. So, no, the Brownlow, I think people just take a bit of notice of what you say, don't they, Shane? That you become a Brownlow medalist and they're a little bit more interested in what you have to say. But normally a Brownlow, winners or contenders, playing deep into the final series, so you actually don't get the chance to celebrate it too much. And the year I won it, we were playing in a grand final in a few more days, so you actually just parked it and put it to the side. And on reflection, it was a pretty special night.
When I won, it was the first ever Brownlow in Sydney, which I was devastated because most of your teammates are back in Melbourne. But then I got to fly back the next morning with Kerry Stokes from Channel 7, his private plane. And I had a few too many the night before, obviously, and I was very sick on his plane. So that's my memories from the Brownlow medal in Sydney.
And so you probably didn't get invited back to the private jet?
No. At the time, Etihad Stadium, now Marvel Stadium, was being built, and they said, they've requested to fly over to show you how it's all coming together. And so much so that they did 2 laps, but every time we hit the wing, out it came again. So not great memories when I look at Etihad Stadium.
Shane, in 1999, you went into the Brownlow count, the shortest ever price favourite from a betting perspective, a record that stood for 17 years. Jimmy, most of the season you were neck and neck in favouritism with Gary Ablett. Crawford, you weren't playing finals, so how much pressure was there going into the night? Were you nervous?
I hated it. Yeah, I did, because everyone's saying you're going to win the Brownlow medal, but as you know, until you actually get the votes on the night, it can be a pretty nerve-wracking experience. And for a young kid from a little country town, that was my dream. It's like, I want to play AFL footy, want to win a grand final. I'd love to win a Brownlow medal. So, I was very happy when the night was over and the result was done and dusted. And, it was just a great night and great memories.
Now, Jimmy, we know you're as cool as the other side of the pillow. Were you a little bit nervous on the night?
I wasn't nervous because I missed the final 2 games of the year, and I missed one early in the season through a concussion.
And you still won. That's
with a leg in the air. You imagine how many votes I would have got. But I actually just wanted to poll a vote. It was the first Brownlow I went to. I'd been suspended the previous years, took a teammate up, wanted to just enjoy the night. And then as the vote count unfurled or unravelled in front of you, you thought, I don't want to get close enough and then get overrun in those final 2 games. But I was lucky enough to poll 3 at around 20 where they couldn't catch me, and I sat back and enjoyed the final 2 rounds.
Well, you both won premierships, but I dare say, as you alluded to, when you get the introduction as a Brownlow medalist, it's something very, very special. And this year, it's going to be an open count. We're going to take a look at the medal market now. Patrick Dangerfield won in 2016, and he has been a popular favourite, firming from $3 into $2.60 in the last couple of weeks. But it's not going to be a foregone conclusion by any stretch of the imagination. Crawford, you've been batting up for a couple of players at longer odds throughout the course of the season.
Yep.
How do you assess it now?
Well, I think Dangerfield deserves to be favourite. Geelong winning a lot of games, and he's just a super player. So I can see him being right there. But I've decided that I'm going to lean towards Grundy, which is very rare for a ruckman to win the Brownlow medal, especially with past history recently. But the way that I've looked at it, and I've done a lot of studying to try and sort of work through why I would think he would get the votes and so forth. Collingwood had a great year. Last year, Brodie Grundy was one of the favourites, finished on 17 votes, probably should have got more. Still, Sidebottom pinched a lot of those votes. He was the guy he was tapping the ball down to. So Sidebottom hasn't had the year that he did last year. Pendlebury's been very good. Treloar's been very good. I just think sometimes it has a flow-on effect. And I think the umpires become more aware of how good Brodie Grundy is. He's averaged 41 hit-outs a game, which is incredible. 21 possessions he's averaged a game. And that's not to talk about his tackles. I think he's averaged 4 or 5 tackles a game. He's just a huge presence. He's just a big man, and he's a running machine. I've just got a feeling that this year we could see a ruckman win, and I think Brodie Grundy could be that at very good value.
Well, it was as much as $51 after round 6. He's now into $15, so still a nice quote. Jimmy, we're going to get your winner tip just a little bit later. Keep the viewers on the edge of their seats. And we're going to take a look at the leader after round 11, because it is quite fascinating to see how much the market has changed from the leader at the halfway point to the end of the season. Now, Tim Kelly, the Cat, had a blistering first half of the year. Do you think he'll be out in front early doors?
I think he'll be certainly in the running, if not, as you said, the leader. The Cats were 11-1 for the first 12 rounds, and they were dominant in those rounds as well. And he's a guy who's a fast starter in the game. So the way the Cats get going in the game is he through the midfield, but he also hits the scoreboard. You highlighted some double-figure odds players, and Patrick Dangerfield as well being the favourite. Is the guys who hit the scoreboard, they get the umpire's attention, that extra 30 seconds to go back and take your shot, getting the high fives and the hair ruffled. We wouldn't want to ruffle that hair, Quinny, but they got those guys who hit the scoreboard and do that attacking sort of stuff do capture a lot of the vote. So Tim Kelly and the Cats going well. I think he'll be right up near the top of the halfway point.
And he doesn't argue with the umpires too, and I think that's really important. I know, Jimmy, you would have argued with the umpires too often, and I did there for a little while, and then I toned it down. And then after I'd won a Brownlow medal, I moved on, and then I started chirping away back at them. So he's the type of player that, definitely will get a lot of votes. I think kicking goals and hitting the scoreboard is so important. But you've got to remember, it's a tough job for the umpires because they're like us. You watch a game and then you get to the third quarter and the last quarter, but they're the ones that stick in their memories more so than ever. And I've had a look through the stats, and a stat that I like to really focus in on is free kicks in the second half of games. And someone who's number 2 in the league is Nathan Fyfe. I don't think there's a lot of Fremantle players taking a lot of votes off him. He's had 49 free kicks in the second half of games. What does that mean? Does that mean the umpires at halftime had a chat and said, oh, hang on, Fyfe's being held a lot, he's being tagged, they're putting a lot of tension, the opposition, into him? So for me, that becomes a bit of a factor. So that's why I've tried to work Nathan Fyfe in around my multis, because I think that might have something to play out on the night.
So we know Tim Kelly's most likely going to hit the ground running, and I dare say could be a leader throughout the course of the count. One punter's had 200 on him at $67, so fingers crossed there. But who's going to be the player that does finish the year strongly? Will it be Patrick Dangerfield, who's now the favourite?
Well, Danger's last 4 or 5 rounds were that explosive Dangerfield that we've come used to seeing, where he starts the game in the middle, he tucks the ball under his wing, blasts the ball forward, but he spent a lot of time in the goal square, and he really hit the scoreboard hard towards the back half of the year. I'm a bit Nat Fyfe after the bye round. I noticed he went forward a lot, and they went through him a bit more. And even watching him on TV, as we do back here in Melbourne, he captures your eye when he flies to the mark. So you can just imagine, as you said, the umpire seeing Nat Fyfe coming up, big contested mark. So I think the back half of the year, I think Dangerfield will come home with a hurry. And I also think Nat Fyfe.
Yep, and don't forget Dusty. Dusty finished like a train, and Bontempelli, for me, really stood out as well. So I know we're making it very hard, but it is such an even year right across the board. But, Bontempelli, for me, had real impact in the last 5 or 6 games, probably even more than that. And Dustin Martin, if you've been watching the Richmond games, superstar, he just got into 4th gear, and I've got a feeling he might flick into 5th for the finals.
I've got a little ace up my sleeve involving Dustin Martin, which we'll share at the end of the show, but I think a wonderful chance for the punters to cash in. We'll take a look at some of the fluctuations on some of the leading contenders. Patrick Dangerfield, as we know, is now a favourite to go on and win the Brownlow at $2.65. He was $3 once the home and away season finished. But he has had a rocky road. He was $11 early doors. He got out to 13 and then he really turned his form around from round 10 and currently has firmed all the way in. While Brodie Grundy, he started at $34, which does surprise me a little bit because there was a lot of talk about him and the ruckman underpolling last year when him and Maxi Gawn were tipped to potentially run the Quinella, and Max Gawn somehow didn't even top the Melbourne votes. Don't know how Angus Brayshaw beat him there, but good to see I'm still not bitter about that one. Brodie Grundy got out to $51 after round 6 and he's now a $15 chance. But we've given it a little bit of a drum roll and got the punters just waiting with bated breath. Who's going to win the 2019 Brownlow medal, Jimmy?
Oh, for me, Paddy Cripps. He went so close last year in a side that only won 2 games and also got belted in every other game. This year, they won a few more games, and the games they lost, they were very close. And I'm almost using a bit of your theory here, Shane, when you spoke about Brodie Grundy. I think umpires would focus a bit more on Paddy Cripps. I think he's gotten even better. He's hitting the scoreboard. He had that game against Brisbane where it was probably the most dominant game we've seen all season, where he had 30+. Kicked 5 goals. No disrespect to his teammates, but I just don't see anybody else taking votes off him. I just think the biggest midfielder we've seen in quite some time, 195 centimetres, nearly 100 kilograms. He's there right in front of the umpire all the time. He's got players hanging off him. He's just been awesome, dominant when he's played. And I just think he'll poll those few extra votes, which will be enough. And I think he has a bit of value too in the market, Quinny.
Yeah, he's $11. And the big tick for mine is he polled 20 votes last season. So now the umpires are going to know him better. He had a better season this season last season, and Carlton was much more competitive and won more games.
Yeah, and everyone was saying that he dropped away a bit in the second half of the season, but that's when Carlton started to win a few games. So he's either going to get the 3s and 2s, even if he's not having 30 plus, because he's averaging 9 or 10 contested possessions a game, so he's in and under. The umpires are very aware, as Jimmy did say, and he, for me, has been my pick all year, Paddy Cripps. And I've just started to turn only because Collingwood have won a lot of games, and I've just thought, hang on, I just think there'll be a flow-on effect, so maybe I'll change my opinion, but I totally agree with Jimmy. He's going to be right up there, and he's unbelievable value.
Well, at $15, you can have something on Grundy. At $11, have something on Cripps, and it's going to be laughing all the way to the bank. Now, we've got two of the greatest football brains here, but let's see what the computer's got to say, because we've got the Edge Predictor, which simulates the AFL season 10,000 times, and this is the data that they've spat out to see who's most likely going to win the Brownlow medal. 85.2% of the time. Josh Dunkley, he's rated at 43.4%. He's currently at $2.10. And Scott Pendlebury's done nothing but firm. Shane Crawford started a betting plunge here. He's rated a 26% chance of finishing in the top 10. He's at $1.80. Crawford, tell us why you like Pendles to poll well.
Well, it was only a few weeks ago when we did look at the Brownlow odds. Pendlebury was $10 to finish in the top 10, which I thought was pretty crazy because he's had a very good year. He's All-Australian, but he plays through the middle. He holds on to the footy. He's nice to the umpires. So I'm thinking he's going to poll really well. And then all of a sudden he's into $1.80. So I just think, there's...
Someone knows something.
Something's going on there. Now, he's $50+ to win the Brownlow. We're not saying he is going to win, but it wouldn't surprise us. If he actually got 25, 26 votes, that's enough to win, and that wouldn't be a massive surprise. He's had a very good year. So I'm all about value. I'm all about trying to find a little roughie, to cheer on the night. I don't want to pump myself up, but last year I pushed Tom Mitchell and Steele side bottom in the Quinella, which was 50-1, which was quite nice. But this year, the confidence level's just not there.
Oh, you can't do that to us. He'd be a very popular winner, though, Pendlebury, if he did win.
He would, and he does get votes. So you got to remember, Brodie Grundy, awesome, but are they going to give him to the ruckman? I think they are, but if you look at history would say no. So that means either Treloar or Pendlebury will get the votes because Sidebottom hasn't had that year like he did last year. So Pendlebury top 10, I think is a real lock.
There we go. Hopefully Pendlebury can have a good night. Now, you're with Josh Dunkley, a player that's really burst on the scene this year.
Yeah, I think people forget, you go way back in the first part of the year, he picked up a lot of possessions playing that half-forward role, but since about round 13, they pushed him right inside, and some of the numbers he was producing, 38 touches a game, 10 tackles, hitting the scoreboard, and when the Doggies went in the back half of the year, when they went 8-3 in the second half of the year, it was around him. I know everyone, again, will focus on the Bont and McRae and Lockie Hunter, but this guy, big midfielder, stuffed the stat sheet, did a little bit of everything. So I just think he is a sneaky chance for a top 10.
Okay, there we go. Might be one to follow those Western Bulldogs players. They're going to finish very, very strongly. Now, we're going to go back to the Edge and take a look at some of the most team votes because there's some interesting ones here, and if you do want to follow the Edge Predictor, you might have found yourself a little bit of value. Taking a look at Collingwood, they've got Adam Treloar just a 14.6% chance to top the Pies, and he's an odds-on favourite at $1.65. The value might be with Brodie Grundy. He's at $2.40 and he's rated an 81.5% chance. And even Scott Pendlebury given an 11.6 chance and he's $5.50. While Greater Western Sydney, Stephen Caniglio, he's a $2.25 favourite and given a 30.9% chance. But the value might be with Tim Taranto given a 36.1% chance. And he's currently rated at $6. So hopefully the computer boffins can spit out some data that can help us cash in. Speaking of boffins, let's recap your best bet for the Brownlow medal, and then we're going to take a look at some specials which we've been digging up throughout the course of the week.
But not only that, Jimmy, very involved with GWS. He watches them every week. Taranto, $6. Is it worth something?
Well, I'm going to put him in my special, which we'll go through a bit later, but he has averaged 28 touches a game, 6 clearances, about 7 or 8 tackles. So, again, another big body. We've seen in recent times those guys who are involved in a lot of contested footy do attract a lot of attention. Goes about his business, as you said, doesn't argue with the umpires, but is often always the one handing the ball back to the umpire.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Is that the trick?
Well, you've got to get the footy as well.
That's it.
All right, Crawford, just recap. Who wins the Brownlow?
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Brodie Grundy. I've just got a feeling in my bones that the umpires are going to give him... He deserves the votes. It's just whether or not it's going to be a midfielder or a ruckman. And I've just got a feeling if he can get some votes early on, look out for the big ruckman to have a win and become the Brownlow medalist for 2019.
And Jimmy is with...
Yep, I'm with Paddy Cripps. Every player's favourite player pretty much in the competition. I think every player from the opposition loves watching Paddy Cripps go about his business, not when they're playing against him, but I just think such a good year last year, even better year this year for him and his side. Just a few more extra votes, which will be enough for him to win it.
There we go. Hopefully both those players are up there. I think Patrick Dangerfield's going to be the ones that beat. He'll come home very, very hard and get the job done. Now, this is my favourite part of the segment because we're really going to help the punters cash in and send the tab bookies absolutely cast. We've gone away, we've done some research and come up with a special that we wanted them to frame up. They've done it. So hopefully we can find a winner or two. And if you want to find them on the tab app or on the website, you can do so under AFL specials. Crawford, you can bounce the ball. What have you got for us?
All right, believe in me. Come on, believe in me. That's what you need to do. Okay, I'm going to go Grundy, Brodie Grundy, who I think can win, and Paddy Cripps, who I also have in my top two. I think they're going to poll over 50 votes. Okay, that's $4.25 on the tab odds. Unbelievable value. These two are going to be top of the leaderboard. Just sit back and cheer for a Collingwood player and also a Mighty Blue just to get some votes on the night.
That's strange, Collingwood and Carlton people cheering for each other.
We'll be going, come on, it's the only time we're ever going to cheer for them, but I think they can get it done.
That's under the Shane Crawford special there on the tab up. What's the Jimmy Bartel special?
Well, I've been charged with value, and this is absolute value, this bet. The Bulldogs, who, as I mentioned, come home with a flurry. 8-3 in the back half of the year. We mentioned the names Dunkley, Bontempelli, McRae, Hunter, Norton when he had a couple of nights out. I want the Doggies to poll more than 70 votes as a team. Dylan Grimes has been a star. All-Australian, never polled a Brownlow vote.
Defender, getting a vote.
He will poll his first Brownlow vote, and I think it might be against Port Adelaide where he'll get it, where he's certainly dominant. And we'll use the edge predictor here to help us. Timmy Taranto, most votes for the Giants. So bundle all that up, Quinny, and we've got the juiciest multi in the game.
Absolutely huge odds there. The Jimmy Bartel special on the tab.
I'm going to write that down. I think I better have a bit on that.
And if it gets up, it could pay for a few suits at the Spring Carnival. You look very suave as well, so we might need a bit of help in here.
Let me guess, Quinny, you're going to go $1.20 into $1.50 into $1.10.
And throw the anchor on it.
What are you going to do?
Brutally unkind, you blokes. I don't know why I carried you both for 710 games combined. Now we're going to finish the show with a bang. This is a lock. I wish I had a big lock to show how confident I am. Dustin Martin to poll the most votes in the AFL from rounds 15 onwards. Currently $3. Looks a lovely way to turn 10 into 30. Thanks for joining us in our AFL special. Boys, be bad. Make sure you bet with your head and not above it. And you can check the markets at tab.com.au.